Hello my students of class 9th and 10th ICSE. Welcome to Study English with Jayashree. Today I am going to discuss a beautiful poem which is a thought-provoking also, that is After Blenheim. I will discuss all the aspects of poem and the meaning between the lines, which is very much required. Also you will come to know about the figure of speech, theme, critical analysis of the poem, and at last I will give you very important MCQ questions from the point of view of boards. So stay tuned till the end and subscribe my channel to get latest videos which are completely based upon changed pattern of ICSE. So before starting the poem, I would like to tell you about the background of the poem. This poem is After Blenheim, is also known as the Battle of Blenheim, is an anti-war poem written by Robert Southey. He was named Poet Laureate of England for his contributions to poetry. It is written in the style of a ballad. This is about the War of Spanish Succession, which was between 1701 to 1714, when Charles II died without a heir after his death in 1700. So after Philip V, King Louis XVI's grandson, rose to the throne, and he was from France and wanted to grab the throne of Spain as there was no direct heir. So other European countries saw the development of Louis XVI very unfair, and they realized that Louis XVI was increasing his power. So war broke out between France and Austria, and that held in 1701. England and Netherlands allied with Austria, while Germany and Italy allied with France. In 1704, the coalition defeated France and Bavarian forces at Blenheim. Blenheim was a small town among the conquering heroes were England's Duke of Marlborough and Savoy's Prince Eugene, whose name is mentioned in this poem. So now, after the background of the poem, let's discuss the line-by-line explanation of the poem. The first stanza. This is a very easy poem and written in a very simple words. See the first stanza. It was a summer evening. Old Caspar's work was done, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun. And by him is spotted on the green his little grandchild Blenheim. So the first stanza begins with a picture description of a summer evening. The poet introduces the poem's main character, who was old Caspar. He is the grandfather. And he has just finished his day work, and he was sitting in the sun before his cottage door and watching his granddaughter Blenheim. Her name was Blenheim, and she was playing on the field. His little grandchild, stanza 2. She saw her brother Peterkin. What is the name of her brother? Peterkin. Peterkin rolled something large and round, which he beside the rivulet in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. So when Blenheim saw her brother Peterkin rolling something which was very large and smooth and round, she was not knowing what was that. It was just ball-like thing which he found beside the stream. There was a rivulet, is a small stream which was blowing in their field. In playing there he had found. He came to ask what he had found. So the Peterkin came to the grandfather and he asked that what is it? What is this round shaped thing which I have found from the field? Name was Blenheim. Now stanza 3. Old Caspar took it from the boy. Old Caspar, who was the grandfather, and he was sitting there, he has took that round thing from the boy. Till now, what is that round thing? It is not disclosed. But let's see what it is. That was so large and smooth and round. Who stood expectant by? And then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh, "'Tis some poor fellow's skull," said he, "who fell in the great victory." Now here there is a reveal that what is that? Oh, that is round and smooth thing. So he has taken that round and smooth thing from the grandson's hand, and he shook his head with a sign as he figured that it was some poor fellow's skeleton of a human head. So who had died in the war. So what he told is that he told that this is the skull of some poor fellow who must have died in a war. And here it is taken as a great victory. So here it is an irony that a war is what? It is the destruction of humanity. It is the killing of so innocent people, because innocent people die from both the sides. But it is taken as a great victory. So it is the irony of the what the poet has wanted to say, that this is the irony that war is taken as a great. How could it be great when it is the cause of destruction of so many lives, so many families? Now come to the stanza 4. I find them in the garden, for there is many hereabout, and often when I go to plough. So Caspar is saying that he has found so many skulls in the garden while ploughing the land, when he was doing work in the field with his plough. When I go to plough, the plowshare turns them out. Means whenever I put the plough into the field, there comes a skeleton. For many thousands men, said he, were slain in the great victory. And what does this expresses? That there are this is the sacrifice of so many soldiers who played a vital role in the victory. And those skeletons were grabbed in the soil, and when he was plowing the field, those come one by one. So there are thousands of skeletons in the field. Stanza 5. Now tell us what it was all about. Young Peterkin, he cries. So the children were excited to know more about war. They were curious to know about the purpose of the war, why the war, what is war, as they were very young children, they don't know what is war. So they just asked the questions to their grandfather, said that what is the war? They had with wonder-waiting eyes, they were wondering to hear the answer from the grandfather. So the next line, with wonder-waiting eyes, now tell us all about the war and what they fought each other for. So the grandchildren asked their grandfather that what is this war? They had associated a sense of thrill, adventure and excitement with the idea of war and sacrifice. So little Wilhelmine looked up to her grandfather in anticipation with wonder-waiting eyes. Wonder-waiting eyes means her eyes was looking with wonder to the grandfather that what is it? In the stanza, the poet attempts to distinguish the curiosity and enthusiasm associated with a child, because you see that children are so enthusiastic. They want to know everything because their mind is free. They don't have anything feed in their mind. They are empty. So whenever they see anything, they see it with wonder that what is it. They just want to know about that thing. So the same enthusiasm is associated with a child, and that is described by the poet in this lines. So here he is giving the description about the war. What it is? The Battle of Blenheim was one of the major battles of the War of Spanish Succession, as in the beginning I have told you, that in which English successfully defeated the Franco-Bavarian army. France and Bavarian, they allied together, and that was defeated by the English. So here he says it was the English, Caspar cried, who put the French to rout, means who took out the French, they defeated the, who put the French to rout means they defeated the French. But what they fought each other for, I could not well make out. But what was the reason of their fight? He is not able to tell the answer of that. So he is saying that he doesn't want to reveal this answer, that what was the reason of the war, to the children, and he is not able to tell his grandchildren also that what is the reason behind the war. I could not well make out, but everybody said, quoth he, that it was a famous victory. But what he is trying to tell them, that he has also got the knowledge of war from the others. He did not even try to find the purpose behind it. He just chose to know what others told him regarding the war, and that what. Now come to stanza 7. My father lived at Blenheim then. So what Caspar is saying, that he used to recollect his olden days, his past days when he was also a child. That his father, he lived in Blenheim. Blenheim is what? That is a place where the war has took place. So he lived at Blenheim. Yon little stream hard by. They burnt his dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So he tells the children that his father used to live at Blenheim, the French soldiers, they burnt, they is referred to French soldiers. They burnt his dwelling. Dwelling is the home. So the French soldiers burnt the homes of several innocent people, and among which was his father also. This destruction forced the pupil to leave the village and search for a safer child. As you also have seen that whenever the war has broke, what happened? The innocent people killed because so many bomb shellings were there on their home dwellings. So they have to go, they have to leave their place, their homeland and whatever they have just to save their life and their children's life. So with his wife and child, he fled. What happened? This destruction forced his father, Casper's father also, to fled with his wife and young Casper. Old Casper, now he is old, but at that time he was young. So he has also fled with his father at the time of war in search of shelter. But he was unable to find a home because of the war, nor had he where to rest his head. Means he was not able to find a home. This rendered their family homeless. So at the time of the war, he has also. So here Casper was telling his experience which he had during his childhood, that he had to fled with his father as there was a war and the French soldiers had burnt their homes, their dwellings. So, and he was not able to find the home also because just because of the war. He himself was a victim when he was child. Now stanza 8. With fire and sword the country round was wasted far and wide. So this stanza, this highlights the horrific aspects of the war. Means what happened after the war. What is the condition of the people who who became the victim of the wars. The symbol of fire and sword. This embodies the evil spirit of human cruelty and destruction. Because war says what? That is the destruction of humanity. One person kill the other just because of gaining something. That is the cruelty, the ultimate cruelty. So these two words depict sword and fire. Was wasted far and wide, and many a childing mother then. So here the image of a death of pregnant mothers, childing mothers, the mothers who are having children in their wombs. So a newborn baby died. What happened? The bombs does not see anyone. Whether it is a woman, whether it is a child, it does not see anything. It shells on others and just kill them tremendously. So the image of the death of a pregnant mothers and newborn babies heightens the idea of the ruination of human beings caused by none other than men themselves. So men kill the others. The idea is to express how thousands of innocent lives were taken in due course of a futile and meaningless war that is sure to bring only damage and destruction everywhere. Nothing is gained in the war, only a damage. So this irony, this pain is depicted in these lines. But things like that, must be at every famous victory. Again, there is an irony in the poem, just like the Casper earlier also he has said that it is a great victory. Again in these lines, it is said that even after there is so many of destruction, so many of killing of human beings, so many of deaths of mothers and their children, the irony is what? That it is again a great victory. Why it is called a great victory? Because this depicts the victory of the English over the French. Now the stanza 9. They say it was a shocking sight. They say means the people who have seen this, who were there at the time of the war and who had experienced at the time of war. They had seen the place after the war, what had happened. So they say it was a shocking sight after the field was won, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. So poet, through Casper, he goes on to describe the agony of the war. Agony is the pain. He mentions the shocking sight of the battlefield that was full of dead bodies. Here and everywhere, you will not see anything else, dead bodies, bloodshed. And of whom? It was of the soldiers rotting in the sun, because there is nobody to pick up their bodies. So when the soldiers died, their bodies rot in the sun. So lay rotting in the sun, but things like that, must be after a famous victory. Again, they are reduced to a mere status of an inanimate object. There is no dignity, no glory in the war, only misery, only destruction, only killing. So even after such a terrifying aspect of the war, Caspar again regards it as a famous victory. He says that what happened, whatever, there is so much of killing, there is so much of bloodshed, even though these things happen even after a famous victory. So, which emphasizes the old man's ignorance about the purpose and consequences of war. So he is not concerned about the consequences or about the deaths or about the destruction of humanity. He is not concerned about those. He was only saying it a great victory. Stanza 10. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough. This is the name which I had told you, that the two people were there who were taken as the conquering heroes. That was England's Duke of Marlborough and Savoy's Prince Eugene. So great praise the Duke of Marlborough won, and our good Prince Eugene. Why, it was a very wicked thing, said little Blenheim. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. So Duke of Marlborough was an English general. He was the commander of the British forces. He was leading the British forces in the Battle of Blenheim. And Prince Eugene and Duke of Marlborough represented Britain in the battle and defeated the French at Blenheim. So Caspar sang praises for those men who brought the famous victory to the nation. But Blenheim, confused at the meaningless praises, he explains that the war was a wicked thing because it killed so many people, so many soldiers, so many children died in that. For the first time in the poem, we see the disapproval of the false glory of war. But shutting the little child, Caspar goes on to repeat the same thing. Again he says the war for him is not a wicked thing as long as it is a famous victory. So he is only concerned about the victory of England, of English people, he is not concerned about the destruction of the war. In the stanza 11, and everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win, but what good came of it at last, quoth little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. So Caspar boasts of the Duke for having won the war for them. Innocent Peterkin asked his grandfather, what good comes out of such a misery? Old Caspar is unable to answer the question of the child. All he can say is that it was a famous victory. So this remark heightens the sense of irony in the poem, that a mature person, he is not concerned about humanity. He is again and again, he has no answer that how could a war be so great, because it causes only destruction, only death, only misery, even a small children. He is so much he is on the basis of humanity. He is asking this question that how can a war be so great, because it kills the people, it is a misery and it is the destruction of so many families. But the person who is so mature, he is not the old man, he is not concerned about those people who were killed, those soldiers who were killed brutally and their bodies were rotting in the sun. He was not concerned about the destruction after the war, but he was just saying this thing that it is a great victory. So he sticks to his illogical belief that the war brought victory to them. Alright children, now let's discuss the figure of speech which is used in after Blenheim. There are not so many figure of speeches are used, still there are a few which I am going to discuss now. The first figure of speech is use of refrain. That is, it is a ballad. And what are the features of a ballad? When one line is repeated many times in the poem, as you are saying, but it was a famous victory. So this line is repeatedly repeating by the main character of that is Caspar. So he is repeating the same line, but it was a famous victory. Means even after all the hazards, even after all the killings, all the destruction of war, there is a this line is repeatedly used, that is, but it was a famous victory. Now, second figure of speech is consonance and alliteration. As consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds in nearby words, and alliteration is a part of a consonant. So, you can say that it is also repetition of consonant sound words. Now, you will see the lines now tell us what it was all about. So in this line, the repetition of T is you are seeing so many times. The second example is with wonder waiting eyes. So here W is repeating so many times. Next line is they say it was a shocking sight. Again you are seeing the repetition of S, which is a consonant, and so it is an alliteration. And the next line, his little grandchild Wilhelmine. In this you are seeing the repetition of L. Now come to the next figure of speech, that is metonymy. What is metonymy? It is a figure of speech in which a thing or concept is referred by the name of something which is very closely associated with it. So as you see that and by him is spotted on the green. So here green refers to the grassland. As grass is green, so here it is used. Next figure of speech. Next figure of speech is irony. How it is irony is used in this poem. Now just see. The poet uses irony when old Casper says again and again, but it was a famous victory, or regards the war as a great victory, but does not know why. Why, that I cannot tell. When Wilhelmine asked him that why it is a great victory, he was not able to answer or satisfy his queries, but he said that only that is a great victory. Even after all the destruction, even after all the killings and murders, it was a great victory. So actually it was not a great victory, because we cannot say that a war can be a great victory. That is all readers know. The poet repeats that famous phrases to emphasize this irony of people's ignorance of the real nature of war, because when people suffer from the consequences of the war, then those people only understand that what are the consequences of the war, that how their lives destroyed, how their family is destroyed, how everything, whatever they have gained throughout the life, that is totally destroyed, and even their houses, dwellings, everything is gone in the war. So only those people can understand the consequences of the war, but those who are not the victim, they will say that it was a great victory because it gives the satisfaction to their ego that they have won. The Englishmen whom they have supported, they won the victory. So it was a great victory. Alright, now let's discuss the theme of the poem, as it is very clear that it is an anti-war poem. Here the war has happened in Blenheim, and that has taken place so many years ago, and so many of killing and destruction was done in that war. So what are the consequences that are related after the war? How the people suffer the consequences of the war, that is being described in the poem, but still it was said that it is a great victory. So the first theme is man's inhumanity towards man. So as you see that war represents the worst form of man's inhumanity to man, because one man kills the other just for the sake of land or supremacy, nothing else. But when the skull, Peterkin finds the skull, he immediately asked Casper that what is it. But the Casper, he says very inhumanly that I have found so many while plowing. So this shows then how inhuman he is. It doesn't impact his mind. It doesn't give him any trouble that he finds human skull after the plowing, because this shows the clear inhumanity nature. Now the curiosity. Second theme is curiosity. As you see that the children have the curiosity to know each and everything. So when Peterkin has seen the skull, he was curious to know what is it, from where it has come, what it is all about. And when his grandfather told him that it was due to the famous victory which had occurred so many years ago, and many soldiers died in that, those skulls, their skull has been found in the field, because after the war so many dead bodies lying on the ground, and there were nobody to pull them or to discard them. So that is why he was able to find out so many skulls. Then when he asked again that what is a war, because he was not knowing anything about the war, so he said that he told the story about the what happened in that war, and he had told a little brief of the story. And he also discussed that he has also been a victim because his father had been fled when the French soldiers had burnt all the dwellings, so they had fled from there to save their lives and family. Still, he said that it was a great victory. So it shows that the children have the curiosity in their mind to know each and everything. The next theme of the poem is pointlessness of the war. Here, the war has no fruits, means it does not give any good impact on. I hope, children, I have made each and everything point very clear of this poem, from the meaning to the hidden feelings of the poem also, and I have discussed the theme and critical analysis, what are the figure of a speech are used in this. As you know, your comments are great inspiration to me, so just keep on commenting. Okay, thank you. So children, do like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my educational videos. You can ask me the questions in the comment section regarding this poem. I will surely solve your doubts.